All right, we are recording, and good morning. It is 4 a.m. in Colorado, 6 a.m. on the East Coast. We have two East Coasters with us today, so you guys are lucky. You get to sleep in. You're sleeping in this morning.
Hey,
Uh,
Stu, look,
yeah,
man, you went to bed at 6:45, okay?
Eh,
You neglected your children and your wife. You're like, "I'm going to bed. It's time for me to sleep." And you just let them do whatever they do for the next 3 hours at home. So I don't want
it,
to hear it. You've been asleep for the last like 12 hours.
it was like 7:45. So
Okay.
yeah. Well, this is Filling the Storehouse podcast, and we have John Soforic on today, and he wrote an amazing book, and we are incredibly excited about diving in to all things Wealthy Gardner. I read this book, and David says I read it in like 2 years, but really I read it in like 2 weeks. But it was amazing, and um, John, I am excited to have you on today. Humbled that you said yes to coming on to our podcast, and welcome. It's good to see you.
Well, thank you, Stu. And let me tell you, I'm humbled and honored to be here because you guys did read it. You went into it deep, and I have to back you a little bit that I was in bed at 7:30 last night as well.
Yes.
I'm on some kind of strange sleep cycle right now where I wake up around 2 o'clock because I am writing the next book. And I write
Okay.
that book at nighttime when the rest of the world sleeps. It's some of the best writing time I can do. And so, no, it's an honor, guys. I love the mission of your podcast. I love the military people in general. We had a little pre-talk, and I said, these are my people. I'm biased toward Ms. You said that a person that recommended the book to you was ex-Marine. Well, one of my best friends is an ex-Marine, and he coached my son, who was a big part of this book. And I love the influence of that coach, that Marine, on my son. So, yeah, man, I'm all in, and thank you for your attention that you've given to the book. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and one point for me, so I did the audiobook and I am going to buy the book. It's too deep. I'd recommend all our readers just read it. If audio is the way you consume, awesome, do that. But there are so many nuggets. Like I'm sitting there listening to the book and I'm like, oh man, I need to highlight that. I'm gonna get the book and highlight that. I'm gonna highlight that, and the whole book's gonna be highlighted. But
Yeah.
it is
Trust
it
me, it is.
is.
I have like underlines on
Oh, it's
stars and
ridiculous.
all kinds of stuff.
No,
Let me
it's
say this. Let me say this about the audiobook. Dennis Kleinman was the guy that did that, and I mean, I made Dennis do that audio. He didn't have a choice. I was going to camp out in his front yard if he didn't do that audio, because he was the voice of the wealthy gardener. That's a character that's supposed to have a little bit of wisdom and a lot of soul. And Dennis was the man. He won. He was a contender in a national award for that audiobook, uh, in the Emmys of audiobooks,
Wow.
right? And he got that audiobook up to number 46 worldwide. He really, really nailed it. And I love him forever for the job he did on that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's an awesome aside because he had very soothing voice as well. But
Uh,
it's yeah,
he didn't have a
it's
choice.
great.
He didn't know it, but I was going to camp out in his yard. He was doing that audiobook, and there's no question about it. He just didn't know it yet.
I
No,
don't
that's
think
great.
David will ever get that invite to be the audiobook guy, like the soothing voice, like audiobook. Not gonna happen.
Well, you surely won't because people would have to put it on 5 times speed just for you to. You read so slowly, and it's just awkward that just to get normal speed, you have to put it up to 5. So I don't think
All right, all
that's
right, all
probably not in our
right.
future. It's not in our
Let's
future.
get
All
into
right.
this thing.
I could
Uh,
charge more if Stu does it because it's a longer audiobook.
there you go. Good point. Good
That's
point.
brilliant. That's brilliant. Hey, John, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I know the way the book is set up is and it reminded me of another military author, the way that kind of Jocko writes books. There's a anecdote, there's a story which is completely intriguing, the story that you told, and then you kind of wrap each section up with a true application to your life, and I love how you did that. But can you tell us a little bit about just your background and why, for our audience, why you wrote the book, which is obvious when you read the book, but what was, I mean, it's a lot of, that's 420 some pages of love and motivation that you dedicated. So tell us a little bit about the why behind that.
Yeah, I think that Well, who am I? I think one guy once said on a review that this is the everyday man's way to wealth, and I take pride in that. I do. I come from blue collar. I take pride in that. Outside of Pittsburgh, my grandfather was a coal miner. There's not a lot of tougher lives than a coal mining in Pennsylvania. He was one of the guys that was actually paid by the company money. He had to spend that money at the company store. That's where my roots came from. There's no way out of that life, man. I mean, that's kind of as close as you can get to slavery as possible without it being called slavery. So when my parents, got together, we're starting from there. And my parents, they moved into a half of a trailer. So I'm in Western Pennsylvania. They didn't get a whole trailer, they got a half of a trailer. And now my dad's a worker, though. He's got a lot of ambition. And because he has a lot of ambition, and because he grows up in a society where your merit can, help you grow into the things you want, because of all these things, hard work counts. He's not in a caste system. He climbed his way out of a social class system, and he got himself on ground. I watched all that, and I didn't feel any lack in my upbringing because I'm a kid and I care about football, baseball, and friends. What do I care,
Yeah.
right? But that's where I come from, and so I saw the money becoming more and more important in my own life. Probably when I graduate from college, and I graduate from chiropractic college at the age of 24 with, well, combined with my wife, over $200,000 in student debt in today's dollars. And I don't have one patient, and I go into business for myself. And it's just like jumping off of a big cruise ship and getting a big splash and not knowing how to swim. I just wasn't prepared. I wasn't. And life all of a sudden, which was great for me, became really hard. And I had within a few years, we had kids. I had a family. We had those 20s where everybody else was having fun. I felt nothing but pain. By the time I'm 30, I know one thing for sure: I'm a wage slave, and there's no way out, man. There's just no way out. I'm paying for food, shelter, clothing, and this big, enormous student debt that nobody can see but me. And so at the age of 30, I would say that due to the influence of another book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is a classic that everybody's read in this genre, it really affected me, and it changed my life. It changed my thinking. This blue collar kid started to be able to think a little bit bigger. And because of that, plans come, goals come, life changes. And over the next 20 years, my goal was to not be a wage slave, not to break out of that family mold of going all the way back to my grandfather who was in a coal mine. And I realized that wasn't my reality, but I had about no more choice than he did in a lot of ways. So that was the big thing for me. I just wanted to get out of that working for money, that no direction in my life, that feeling of oppression where I don't have choices. I have a family, I have kids, they're going to be going to college. I have nothing to pay for it with. I hated that. And so I worked my way out of it. And then my son, this is a long answer, I'm sorry.
This is great.
At the age of 50, after
Awesome.
I actually achieved my goals, my son is about ready to walk out that same door and go to college. Well, what kind of father would I be if I don't address those kind of issues as he's in college, about ready to prepare for the same freaking fight that I just gave for the last 20 years? That's why I wrote The Wealthy Gardner.
Man, that's a challenge. That's a high bar, Stu. What kind of dad, if you don't write
Yeah,
an amazing book for your kid when they leave the house, you suck.
No, I'm just gonna give my kid The Wealthy Gardner and say, here,
Hey,
it's already done.
The work was done.
Yeah.
He said it. He said everything I would want to say.
Our friend John hooked us up already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, it's amazing. And I mean, I feel like it's a very similar story to where David and I are in our lives. We've been serving in the military. We're almost at retirement. We're at 19 years in the Navy. We both have young kids, and maybe we started a little bit later than you with this thought process of how do we get to where we're financially free, where we can dedicate our time and efforts to our family's life instead of being being a slave, slaving all the time for money to keep everything, the lights on. And
I'm gonna stop you.
please.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there, because uh, because here we are. Okay, right now. I don't care where you are. There's always an X in your life. I don't care. And do you ever go to a park and you say, here you are, and there's a big X right there. That's your X. I'm here. You are
Yeah.
here. There's a big arrow pointing to it. I don't care where you are. We're always somewhere. And you know what? It's like you're saying there, you know what, people would envy that spot, that X where you guys are, because you are in the military, because you started that and you have a federal pension coming at the end of this.
Yeah.
You know, people, I always say that to teachers. You guys aren't poor. You guys are bad at math, because you realize what that pension is really worth for us out there struggling as entrepreneurs in the real world. For
Yeah.
every $1 million I have in the bank, I'm allowed to take 30,000 out at retirement. That's it. 3% roll, right?
Yeah.
So these teachers come out to making $60,000 in their pension. I said, well, we struggle. We say, stop it. Do you realize what that's worth? Because the passive income you're talking about requires $2 million in the bank for me,
Yeah.
right? And that $2 million bank in the bank has to come into the bank after taxes. So wait, slow down, and let's just bring it in.
No, you're right.
Bring it in.
Yeah.
And say, okay, wait a minute. Now you're going to have nothing but time, and that's where everybody is. I'm not picking on you guys, but everybody has time. The next 5 years are going to pass. What are you going to do with that time? And it's all about that. You'll see a big 5-year crusade issue in this book. 5-year crusade. What's that? It's giving your time for a worthy cause. Everybody has the next 5 years coming up. Everybody's going to be at a whole different place in 5 years. It's about what you do in this 5 years that determines where you'll be 5 years later. And that's not too far away.
I love it. It's like, it's 100% where our mind's at. And honestly, it's a mindset shift. Like, it's a mindset.
Damn right it is.
It's a mindset shift, and then it's taking action on that mindset. And this book is all about not only the mindset, but the action steps that it takes to get there after. And chapter 1 is all about impact activity. You call it impact activity. And like, there's a list of like everything that you changed, and all of that, doing that daily, consistently, nonstop for, like you said, 5 years is going to make a huge impact. And it's amazing. And it's like right where we are in our journey. So I think it's awesome.
Stu, what I've heard in the past 3 years, or however long it's been since that book is over, is people say, well, yeah, if I were able to get my life all together and my mindset all together and do all the things you're talking about, well, yeah, of course I would double my income. Of course I would get my game on. Of course I would change my life in 5 years, but who can keep it all together? And, I've had a lot of requests for like a more action-oriented step-by-step book. And that has really forced me to go deep into my own book and my own life and even get it more clear. And I can tell you this, that one of the things that really helps get it all together, the mindset, the actions and everything like this, is one of the things that I do every day. Is I call it mindsetting, whereas people just review goals. I actually make a recording of all the things I want to impress in my mind, and I listen to those things. It's like a mind-setting, brainwashing every day of my life. That was never not a part of my life. A lot of things changed all throughout my life, but I had to incorporate a lazy way to get it all together and to keep, like, how do you keep your goals in front of you on your worst day? How do you not quit? Everybody quits. How do you keep yourself doing the actions that you know you should do, whether you feel like doing them or not? Everybody quits. And that's the problem. The execution doesn't match the intention. And I just think we got to figure out a way to keep our heads straight, because that's what leads to the execution. It's always about the mindset leading to the thoughts, leading to the actions, and then not getting burned out and beat up and tired so that you quit. Always. So the one of the things I always did was kept it all in front of me on my worst days, listening to exercise. I exercise and I listen to a mindset statement. I call it mindsetting.
Awesome.
that is incredible. And I'll tell you, I hadn't heard, you always, people reference the Bill Gates quote of people underestimate, and actually you put it in your book as well. People overestimate what they can do in a year, underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And there's always like this 10-year timeline. I'd never heard of the 5-year, kind of the 5-year crusade, the way you break that down. I'll tell you, it brought me immense hope, because as I was looking at that, I'm like, man, that's 5 years is not, it's never been said. I've never heard it. I've never read it. So I've never framed it in my mind, because it's such an achievable amount of time. And it's really, I don't know what it did. It did something to me as I was listening to the book, and it really, it brought me great hope. And because I feel, me particular, like Stu and I are beautiful business partners, because I'm like, sometimes it's like a shotgun, right? A shotgun blast. It's not a laser focus and all over the place. And Stu always says I'm chasing squirrels. And there's a lot of element to that that's true. But that statement and kind of envisioning the next 5 years was really, really formative and helpful to me. I tell you, this book has been amazing, but that piece in particular helped me to see, okay, all this stuff that's going on as we kind of hone this down and focus. Man, 5 years is it's not a long time. And you give people permission. You gave me permission to realize that in 5 years, things are going to be vastly different. And I don't always have to be focused at that 10-year goal to have all my stuff in one sock.
Listen, ambitious people always say, well, people don't want to sacrifice. People don't want to work hard in today's age. Millennials, they're entitled. You hear all this crap. People just want to know the deal. They will do it. Ambitious people will do it, but they got to know the deal. And the deal is not forever. There's a temporary sacrifice. When you guys go, I always bring it back to a battle mindset. If you go on a mission, you're not talking about, I'm going to go into Iraq and in 20 years win. No, you're going to talk about a mission. You're going to get in, you're going to define it. You're going to say, you're going to have an exit strategy. Okay. And you're going to expect to win, and you're going to give it all, but you're going to do it for 5 years, not 5 years. And I heard that over and over and over. And if we all look back in our lives, I promise you that you can look back 5 years and God, you have a whole new life right now. I know you do. You have different people in your life. You have different things you were thinking about. What age were you 5 years ago? Just do a mental thought process. What age were you? I was 50. All right. I'm 55 right now. Well, hell, I wasn't even done with the book. I mean, I'm in the middle of not even know if I'm wasting my time outside of it's just between me and my son. And that's enough for me. Right. But I didn't know I'd be talking to you guys and I didn't know I'd be talking to somebody in Hawaii, or I didn't know I'd have 10 different language translations of a book. I didn't foresee that. That's crazy. I was writing a book for my son. But 5 years ago, I didn't see that. I was just doing the best I could do in that day, right? And it leads to things. It's all you can do is the best you can do in the time you're given. That's all we got. We can't waste time. We can't waste money. Everything else takes care of itself. And if you say about 5 years, you're not alone with that. I'll show you this on your screen here, if you can see this.
Yeah.
Right? Can you read this?
Yep.
So this isn't meant to be a plug. This is meant to be, yeah, everybody said that. They said, well, the 5-year crusade, the 5-year mission, the 5-year, it's like, and to me, it's like, well, isn't that obvious? Because that's just how my life played out. I always had this picture on my wall of a pier, and the pier went into this really still pond. And it's back here in my sauna room. When I walk in, I see it every day. And I had this vision of this pier, and that pier to me represents the next 5 years of my life. Now, do you think it's 55 right now, know what my life will look like at 60? I don't. But it's my job to make the best use of that pier and get to the end of it. And when I get to the end of that pier, I'll think about what I want then, because I'm not even capable of predicting where I'll be or how I'll think when I'm standing at the end of that next 5 years. And so what's important to me is to use the time you got. You talked about coming in here with a guy who referred you the book was a Marine who had a condition. Maybe there was a limited amount of time he has. Well, it's a good framework for all of us to think of our lives like that. And I think that there's a quote in the book that says about we should be told at the start of our life that we are dying, and then we'll use every moment to the fullest. And it's true. We are dying. We're all terminal. But let's talk about this. We have 5 years, and let's use those because our family needs us to. We need to. We have our full potential ahead of us. And the next 5 years is all we got. That's it. Focus there. Awesome. Compartmentalize.
That's awesome. I'm curious, kind of take a step back for when this journey for you started. And, you said you read the book, Think and Go Rich. And, was there a mentor? Was there somebody that said, hey, John, do this? Or like, how did you kind of figure out all of these impact activities that you, was it just like, all right, one day I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to start, exercising daily. I'm going to cut out alcohol. I'm going to do affirmations. Like I'm going to do all this stuff. Like what was that journey like in that process when you got started?
I think that most journeys do start with discontentment. I'm a big believer in discontentment. People say, well, now be content with your life and appreciate with what you have. And I'm all for that. You can live a very miserable existence if you don't appreciate what you have. Yeah. But I do believe in being a little unsettled and facing the conditions that actually give you a little bit of discontentment. That's the start of things. So I can recall walking through a bookstore in a state of discontentment, reading titles. What the hell do I know? I'm just reading titles. I'm not a big book reader at that time. And the title jumped off at me, Think and Grow Rich. It seemed to be more intriguing than a title of Be Rich. Think and Grow Rich. What does that mean? That intrigues me, right? Yeah. Maybe that's a little more intellectual than the stupid finance books out there that just tell you to be rich and make you feel like an idiot if you're not. So Think and Grow Rich, what's that all about? And then it had a deeper theme. Napoleon Hill writes with a deeper texture. I would say that it reached me and I was hanging on every word. I remember reading that book in the presence of family, and family told me this, oh, that's the devil. That's the devil in you reading a book like that. Okay, I come from a pretty strong Catholic heritage where I had to get rid of some of those beliefs that I took on early in life. That's the devil in me. I say, no, that's not the devil in me. That's the potential in me. That's what I've had to understand. That's my ambition. Where did the rest of it come from? It comes from struggling, man. It comes from struggling over years. So, you don't learn much you can learn through reading books, but you learn by going to war. Talking to military guys, you guys will get this. In the book, I say that it almost feels like if I want to understand a battle, I won't talk to a historian. I'll talk to a soldier. I want to talk to the guy who was in it, man. Yeah. And that's what I felt like I could bring to the table. Okay. Screw the theories. Don't talk to me about what you think is right because you read books, because you studied this, and because you're a proficient speaker, far better than me. Don't talk to me about that. Talk to me about what that battle was like and what you had to overcome. And so it was a synthesis of being in battle. That's where all the lessons came from. I'm just telling my story, man. I'm not making anything up. So whenever there might be a whole crap load of lessons, you might say, holy cow, look at all this. Well, it's nothing I didn't live. That's all.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know why it just brought to mind the story in the book where the wealthy Gardner is going on a run with Jimmy, and at the conclusion of the run, he's a young guy, he's all tired, and he's the old Gardner is like, hey man, seems like you're breathing kind of hard. He goes, well, yeah, but you had a century to train. And I love that line because it's so appropriate to what you're saying, because there's two elements there. There's one, to not miss out on any of the experiences that you've had. So you have a lifetime of these experiences. We'd be remiss if we don't actually think on those, meditate on those, learn from those experiences, as you say, that we've been through, not just the experiences of others that we've read, but our own experiences, and then learn and grow from those. And even more importantly, I think, is what you've done. And Stu and I talk about this all the time, about our desire to write a book, but you've taken those and you very creatively and beautifully put them into a book for other people to enjoy, be mentored by, learn from, and grow. And I think that action is amazing. And that's where, I'm kind of, my question is, how do you make that transition? Like, how do you do the first steps of the transition from, chiropractor to author, right? Like, because that's where I'm kind of struggling with the whole just writing, and there's excuses in that, and I know you'll call me on it, but the time to sit down, but the content too is so, like, what I focus on is the structure of your book, all the quotes, all the obvious research that went into it, and just the flow, which requires a tremendous amount of skill to just do that. That's where I get wrapped up on, like, man, how did he do that? How did he make that jump? Is it just a natural born skill? I don't think so. What
No,
caused that
I never.
shift in your mind?
I can tell you this. I think it's really dangerous if you ever come close to trusting skill as the reason for why you'll be successful. I just don't believe in it. It's the whole growth mindset, fixed mindset stuff.
Yeah.
And you can read the book Mindset on that. But I never did. I always had the advantage. I will always say I always had the advantage of feeling that I was very, very average. And when you have a lot of average in you, you have to trust then a lot of work. What can, okay, if you have one leg and you're in a race, you got to learn to jump faster. Okay. That's how it is. And so what brings you to the point where you can be an author? Well, I know one thing. You have to study other authors. You have to read books on reading. This book is not only a fiction book, a nonfiction book, but it also has fictional elements. So I had to study plot points. I had to study what John Grisham did. I had to, like, people don't understand. Like, I didn't just write a book. I went to bat educating myself so that I could write an experience that was worthy. Plot points. I had to learn about what books, how you write screenplays, because those are the best books, the ones that will actually show, not tell. Quit preaching, show. Yeah. So there was an education. Now, what am I talking about? How did I get into real estate? There's an education. Well, I don't know how to do real estate. Well, how do you learn you study real estate? How do you learn how to become a practitioner? Well, you study chiropractic. How do you learn how to become an author? Well, you study it. So, like, we all have this 40-hour work week where we just, that's the price we pay to stay alive on planet Earth. Well, what about the other hours, the other 80 hours a week that we have? Do we have to throw those away? I mean, we're just talking, which of those hours are we wasting? Which are the ones we're wasting? Let's just use those ones. I'm not talking about taking time from your family. I'm talking about taking time away from Twitter, taking time away from social media. I'm talking about the wasted hours, not the family hours.
That's where all your friends are.
Throw them into important hours.
All your 500 friends are on Facebook, right? Those are your friends.
Yeah. So that's where you find the time for education. And a lot of those things, okay, I'm listening while I'm doing work, mundane activities. Let's say that you got to do crap work of life, shallow things. Do the laundry. You can be learning about plot points. You can be learning about structure of writing. You can be learning about whatever the hell it is that you're after. There's an education process there. Without the education, you're powerless. Powerless. That's how you do it.
So good. And then you take action after it.
Yeah, sure. Because the education leads to strategic action. People say, well, you know how you write? You put your ass in a chair and you start writing. Well, yeah, that's how you string words together, but it doesn't mean that anybody's going to want to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, anybody could write a book. I get it. But who wants to read it except for your mother? That's the question.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's an education. Sure, there's a competence level of you guys doing this podcast. I mean, you start with a certain, likability. Not that either of you guys have that.
No, especially Stu. And I thank you for being honest. We appreciate that.
I see how you pick on each other, and I'm hoping I can join in here.
It's good.
That's all. So, no, it's education, guys, and education comes from getting rid of wasted time. And there's no question about that, because then you start to feel empowered to take those actions. Preparation, confidence, you don't sit there and think, I can. You sometimes, before you go into battle, you learn how to battle, and that's where the confidence comes from,
Yeah, but but there's in the real estate world, at least, and I think this is in business world and in general, but there's a lot of people that just educate, and never actually take the steps after education to jump in at some point, and that's scary, right? Like it's scary to jump in because you don't know what mistakes are going to come or what failures are going to come.
Yeah.
And I don't know if really this is even a question, but like where do you have to draw the line between educate and then actually going and doing it?
Yeah, I hear you. How do you motivate yourself to take the actions when you're scared, or how do you get past those barriers? All I can tell you is I wrote a book on it. Hopefully that would give you a mindset change.
Yeah.
It really does come down. They always say mindset. Well, what is mindset? What is mindset? And I say, well, you got to be able to answer a few questions. Like, what do you really want? What do you really want? I mean, you really have to answer that. And you have to answer why you want it. I mean, these things aren't just like philosophical points. Why do you want it? What are you willing to give for it? You have to decide on that sacrifice ahead of time.
Yeah.
What are you willing to give for it? Are you willing to walk into that discomfort, or aren't you? Because those questions do matter, and they matter a lot. If you don't get yourself clear on those things. Another one is, who do you think you are? I would say that's a big one, Stu. I would say that's an enormous one. Who do you really think you are? When you're asking that question, you're usually at a good place, meaning you're challenging yourself. Well, who do you think you are? I didn't tell anybody about real estate until I had 20 properties, because they didn't think I was that person that could do it. And so I didn't really want to hear their opinions of me. That's how it is. Who do they think I am? They think I'm a chiropractor. And then once I'm a real estate guy, I'm not telling people I'm writing a book, because I don't want to hear their opinions. They think I'm a real estate guy now. Everybody doesn't think you can do what you haven't done before, including yourself. And so, you have to kind of convince yourself. And how do you do that? Well, you can do it deliberately. I don't know how else to do it outside of do things deliberately to change your mindset. So I repeat the affirmations. Yeah. Do I do that? Sure. Do I tell myself, John, with enough work, you can do this? Yeah, I'm the guy who does it. Because, if I don't tell myself that, nobody else does. So in the times when I'm ready to pull that trigger and I don't feel like I can do it, I tell myself I can do it. Sure. It's just like a sporting event. If you guys, a lot of military people are sports guys. I played sports all my life. I could score 30 points a game sometimes, but only when my mind was right, man. I had to go in there and feel invincible. I had to bring it. It wasn't a thing where you walk in and say, well, I hope I'm going to win today. No, that doesn't do it, man. That gets you on the bench. You have to bring that attitude. And how do you do that? Well, look at LeBron James, best player out there right now. He's closing his eyes before games. What's he doing? He's doing what we're talking about, and he's better than the rest of us. So it's not a gift. That's something you leave to chance. You spend time building mindset, and that brings you into action. That's what I say, or that's what I've done, at least. I can speak for myself.
So good.
Yeah, that is awesome. And there are a couple things that you said, and we could spend hours just on this, but Stu and I are super passionate about mindset. But what I love is how intentional that it has been in your life, and how you highlight that it's not a mindset is not, okay, go read, Carol Dweck's book and then, cultivate, okay, I'm a growth mindset person because I say it. No, it is, there are action items or intentional activities. There are exercises, just like you do, curls. There are mental curls. Stu, probably a bad analogy. I can't even think of a workout that you'd be good at.
But I got a bum shoulder.
Yeah, I got a bum shoulder. But the actual activity and action to develop that mindset. And then another one that you said, and I think today, in today's culture especially, and a lot of, I'm struggling with how to address this within my family. But the primacy of others' opinions in our life is so strong and it's so prevalent, but it's so unnecessary, and it really is inconsequential. What somebody thinks about what your opinion or who I am, what I look like, what Stu smells like that is completely inconsequential to my potential and to my future growth and what I can become. And it more than anything, it hampers it. It's a barrier to my success. And I love that you said that and highlighted that, because to not address that is critical. And you addressed it through action, which I absolutely love. This is it really resonated with me. So
Well, and there's
thank you
another
for
thing.
that.
There's another thing, Dave, that comes to mind also is just this delayed gratification that nobody has. You know, like everything needs to be immediate right now. Like everything is immediacy. You gotta get it now. You gotta get your Amazon now. You gotta do fast food now, and like this delayed gratification. It seems like it's just completely gone away. And how do you all this stuff like kind of comes into this book, and how you teach your kids about that? Because John, we're we got young kids, like we want to impact their lives in a way that they grow up different from what's happening kind of in society right now.
We're always talking about lessons, and if you look behind me, you'll see where I wrote this book, where I did this, and you'll see quotes all over the place, right? So like my book is a reflection of my life, right? And people say, well, why do you put quotes everywhere? And I always say, well, I'm so dumb I can't remember them. That's why. And so I have to keep things in front of me nonstop. And it's exactly what you said, as far as you're a talker or you're a doer. So people talk about this whole idea of mindset. Well, that's a lot of talk until you're doing something. And people say that, so what do you do? How do you do? Well, how do you do? If you're not actively working on your mindset, you're a talker. Well, how do you do that? How do you do it? Well, how do I do it when I'm going to walk on a basketball court? I think, okay, John, you're going to focus. You're going to play 1 minute at a time. You're going to play, you tell yourself this, you talk to yourself. Those people in my life, I can tell you this, that that may not have been part of my fullest potential. Coming back to that point, a lot of those people had to get less of my time. Let's put it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of my time I spent with people who would encourage my fullest potential. And now you say, wow, that must be nice to be surrounded by a bunch of those people. No. A lot of the people that got my time were, I always, in my book, I'll call them dead people. They were authors from the past, but you can commune with those people, and you can really, some of the biggest influences of my life were dead people. They were people that came and wrote books that helped me so much long after they stopped breathing, and they became my inner circle. They really have. Now, I didn't exclude family out of my life that were negative, but I would just put a little wall up, and I would say, you might not be fit for my goals. I might not have to express that to you, including my own dad. Okay. I might not tell you exactly what my goals are, because you don't have that belief in me. I'll tell you another thing. And, from a point of a book, one of the frustrations with me is that people always think you have it all together, right? Like, look at this guy, he's got it all together. If I could have it all together, I could be. No, man, you're struggling. You're on your own battle over and over and over, learning your lessons over and over and over. And so I was getting to the point where I was ready to write a book, let's just say recently. And I said, I was ready to publish that book. And I was struggling with that, man. I was okay with me and my son being involved with this Wealthy Gardner book. But what about bringing it public? What about that? Because there's a lot of private stuff in that book between a father and son, right?
Yeah.
That I might not have revealed if I was going public from the start. And so a lot of my innermost beliefs. What about that? Well, I'm insecure. Okay. Plain and simple. Let me just say it. I'm nervous about that. I'm concerned what other people are going to think. They're going to think I'm a lunatic. I believe that if I put my full faith and potential on a goal, that harmonious events and coincidences do come into play, and I'll back it with my experiences. I'll say things like that people can look at that and ridicule and judge and malign. So I'm sitting here. What do I do? And my son comes back and slaps me right across the face. He says, "I'll tell you what, Dad, how about all those people you read about, the biographies, the ones that you have on your wall, the Napoleon Hills, the Earl Nightingales, Theodore Roosevelt. What would those guys say about you not writing that book?"
Mhm.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Whack.
How humbling. You're right, Mike. You're right. You're right. And so he convinced me to write that book.
That's
And
awesome.
I get choked up a little thinking about it, because so here's when I was weak, and the guy I wrote the book for helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. That is amazing. Wow. Yeah, you got me a little bit
Yeah.
fired up here. That's I think that's a perfect segue. I want to ask about your son. This work was dedicated to him, and how did he receive it? What is he doing? Like, what's the outcome of the book on his life?
So my son and I just had one of those the fortunate relationships. It's sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved in your kids and your relationship and that sort of thing. It's for all of us parents out there, we all know that kids come through us, not from us. They kind of come through a sliding board, and they come out, and they come out differently.
Yeah.
He was one who had the ability to connect with me on these kind of ideas. And so for him, when I ask him about that question, he'll say, well, this was just kind of a continuum for me, because we always talked about important things. We always did. We always had this shared ability to, or desire to want to talk about ideas, important things, not about, I'm not judging anything, the sports or whatever, but we would talk about ideas. And so for him, it was a continuum. He took it graciously. I asked him to be a set of eyes to judge it. I said, "I'm thinking of doing this." I said, "I'd like you and me to work together." Maybe I was a little dishonest, slightly to him, but you got to be a little dishonest whenever you're dealing with your kids. They'll be dishonest with you. It's fair. I said, "I'm going to write a book, and I would like you to put your eyes on this and keep me from making a fool of myself." Well, approaching it that way, I'm asking him for help, aren't I?
Yeah. Right.
And there's nobody that reads every word of your book like an editor. So I would send these things off to him. He would send them back on Sundays, and we would have a discussion while he was in college. And what a special time that was for a father son. And so
Awesome.
he would actually edit. And he would say, "Well, I would tell him, I'm looking for criticism. I'm looking for lack of clarity. Where don't you understand something?" And we would sometimes argue things out. Wow, that's perfect. So that's how it happened. That's how he came on board and stayed on board. And I had to keep him on board because of the story. I felt like I couldn't just give him a recipe and just ask him to study finance nonstop. I had to give him a book to really engage him. And so that's how it all came to be. And I wanted to show him examples of these characters of good decisions and bad. That was important. I felt like I could build the mindset if a person could go through the book and experience my experiences of life. Then you kind of have, or you're battle tested yourself, kind of, you have the experience, you can do it again. And so that was important to me. Long story short, he graduated, got a great job as far as earning potential. He became an investment banker. He, at the age of 26, is able to save more than I was able to save at the age of 40.
Awesome.
He's rolling financially. He's looking to the next level. As you know, it's for him. He's doing what I would hope he would be doing. He's using the 20s for progress. He's building a power base. He does study, in his free hours as well. So he's building a power base. A big power base is money. So he's saving and saving and saving and saving during these 5 years. I don't think he wants to be an investment banker forever. But I'll tell you what, you'll have a hell of a lot greater options and opportunities because of the banked money after these 5 years to choose, to have the power to choose. At that point, he doesn't know what's at the end of his own pier, and that's okay. That's the way it should be. Just use the next 5 years.
So good. I'm curious, before that, like when he was in college, David and I have younger kids. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old boy. And David and I talk all the time about the intentionality of teaching our kids these values. And I'm curious if there was any, I guess, planned intentionality with you, kind of walking through your kids' lives and bringing them alongside with you along the way and having them go check out your rental properties and kind of teach these things along the way. Was there any kind of
Absolutely
plans to that?
Stu, it's a question that opens up something very important to me, because here's the challenge, right? The more you love the kids, the more you care about your family. We're in this crucible where we don't know what to do, because the more you want to care for them and be responsible, that means the more you're going to leave your house, go out there, make them money to provide for them. And so what do? Sit around on the couch because you love your kids? Or do you get out there and earn and show them sacrifice and give them the kind of opportunities because of your own sacrifices, let them witness it for you? One of the things that mattered most to me is I was sacrificing, because I would work a 40-hour week. I would then go into my free hours and give another 20 at least. I was learning a lot of dead time. They saw sacrifice. It's only a 60-hour week, guys. It's only half of our life still in a 60-hour week. But still, I needed him to understand the sacrifice. And the greatest education I could give him was for me to be honest, to not be the dad who sits around and acts like he's almighty. I told my kids and my wife all the time what my greatest fears were. My fears, man. I wasn't doing this because I was a great warrior. Sometimes I was just scared shitless. Okay. I was afraid of the future because I was in chiropractic and insurance was shrinking. At the time, my kids were growing older. And so I'm making less after 10 years in chiropractic than I did in the first day. Every year I make less and less and less in a profession. I'm scared. Okay. I'm scared. I want you to understand that because your dad's scared, this is what I'm doing. Okay. This is the opportunity I think is going to work. Let me show you how it works. Oh shit. Let me show you how it didn't and why. And so it was an education. My life for them was an education. And it was only an education because I shared everything. There's not one thing I held back from my kids and my wife. And it wasn't about making me a big guy. It was about showing them how this real life works so that when they get out there and take a punch in the teeth and they lose a few of those teeth, they say, oh, that's normal. I lost some teeth and now I'm going to keep going. It's called resilience. And they learned the process of pain, of suffering and sacrifice and winning and losing and not losing forever through that whole process of watching me. So yeah, complete 100% transparency. That was crucial for me. And that was the lessons I've hopefully gave to my kids, where they can understand that life is easier if you choose a struggle, if you choose to fight.
I love that. And I think it's something that, again, Stu and I talk about all the time, is how do we make our kids tougher? Not because I don't want them to be crybabies. No, it has nothing to do with it. It's because we observe from our positions in leadership in the military that there's a shift, there's a change, where a lot of our sailors or those we serve with, they don't, the resiliency is different. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's not that experiencing losing, which is a great lesson, is something that we as a society with handing trophies out, and I'm not being critical and I'm not judging.
Everybody gets a trophy.
There's an impact. There's a psychological impact, and Carol Dweck hits it beautifully, and how she talks about when you lower the standards to make somebody feel better, you're not doing them a favor. You're actually crippling them. And so, I love how you say that. And Stu and I talk about the honesty with our kids, and my desires by the time my daughter enters high school, that I take her through a real estate transaction, that she has a rental property with the money that we're saving, that she understands the value, because money is one of those subjects that we didn't grow up talking about. And a lot of our parents are like, no, I don't want to talk about this. I'm like, no, I want to talk about this. I want to have this experience, because it is what makes the world go around. And if you don't understand that it's a tool, just like a hammer, then you're missing out. And I'm remiss as a father for not teaching you that lesson just by a conversation.
If you don't, you're going to have a kid like me who graduates from college, looks like you got the world by the balls, and finds out that this kid is the most unprepared person at the age of 24 to handle those responsibilities in life than anybody you could imagine. And that person is going to go through so much struggle and so much pain because you as a parent didn't sit down and help to prepare them and show them what you're going through. Okay. That's what I did not want for my kids. I didn't want that pain. And so I wanted them to understand some things about finances, some things about winning and losing. You know, I love if you guys ever watched the Sylvester Stallone quote, it's one of my favorite quotes, where he's talking to his son and he says, it's not about how hard you can punch, it's about how hard you can take a punch and keep moving forward. If you never saw that, just freaking YouTube that one.
It's good.
He nails that. And it's to me, show me a person that could take a bat to the head and keep moving forward, and I'll put my money on that person and not even flinch ever. That's who's going to win. That's the game. Who can move forward with the big punch? It's really the whole key to resilience. And then you have to keep on, becoming more and more effective. It's not the whole game. It's just you can't win without that aspect figured out.
Yeah. You got to take the failures and learn from them and grow and just keep on moving.
And consider it normal. Consider it normal.
Yeah.
It's a good thing it is normal for Stu and I. So we're very resilient.
It's normal for everybody, guys. I know you're kidding, but it is. It is. And here's the thing. Like, you might want to talk to your kids about why you're doing this podcast. You don't need to do this. This isn't a need. You don't need it. Those are the kind of things, man. I mean, look at you. What a great example it is for them. You guys have your livelihood income. You're also doing this. And you mentioned you're also talking about writing your own book. Why? You're bring your kids into that, and and then all of a sudden they'll see what ambition looks like. They'll see what striving looks like in your free hours, instead of sitting there watching your fifth Seinfeld in a road. It just doesn't. They'll see by example. I mean, what a great example you guys are being for the kids if you let them in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's so awesome. My brain is stirring big time right now. This is good.
Dude, I'm about to send a text into work and say I'm going to be in a podcast all day.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna let John out of here.
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, John. I just want to encourage you real quick as we kind of get close to time and Stu's question. But hey, I want to thank you and encourage you. I think Stu and I we're not the fluffy type of folks that just pass out compliments, and we don't withhold them at all, but we don't, blow smoke. And I will tell you that this book has been, and Stu and I have been talking about it for days. And it just has been so formative. It's been very time appropriate and time impactful for me. I can't speak to Stu. I know it has for Stu. I don't want to speak for Stu, but I just want to thank you for taking the time and giving the world this book, because it has really been something that I will continue to go back and reference and dig into, because it's been challenging. It's grown me. And I will just say that I truly think the Lord blessed you through this process of putting these words on the page for your son that is, I can honestly say, has impacted a number of people's lives without any question. And so it's just extremely meaningful for me that you would join a couple knuckleheads like us, and the fact that for all of our listeners, you have to go get this book, because it is so powerful. And I just want to thank you for doing that, and encourage you that it's going to continue to make waves long after, there's going to be quotes from your book on somebody's wall long after you stop breathing as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I would say this, that it's an honor to be here as well. And when you say, thank you for coming on a podcast with guys like us, you're my guys. You're the kind of guys that I am. Okay, that's how it's done. And so, to me, I mean, I can tell you this. I've eagerly wanted to be on your podcast because you guys had read the books. What you might not know is a lot of the competition of podcasters, they don't even take the time to do that. And so, like, that's who you are. You know, keep in mind that you're the audience listening to you guys. You guys are doing the background work. That's quality. It's a difference compared to the industry standard. I can tell you that. And so, for me to talk to some guys that are involved with the military, doing things, raising families, doing that, man, you're my people. Of course, I'm going to talk to you.
Well, we appreciate it, John. It's been fun, and hopefully we were able to continue to talk to you. We'd love to continue to pick your brain and have you as a mentor to us. But how do people? What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
So here's what's different about me.
Yeah.
I always say, I'm not looking for you to get a hold of me.
That's good.
I'm not the guy that's out there shouting, right? I'm not that guy. I wrote a book for my son. I would say that what I would like to do in the future, I have my own design on where this is going in the next 5 years. I have to first finish this next book, right? The 12 Rules to Prosper in 5 years. 12 Rules, 5 years. It's a system. It's a book on a system. You got military guys, I love it. It's a system you cannot get out of. It's going to show you accountability. There's a score, and if you don't get the score, there's nowhere to hide. All right. It's execution. This next book is all about that. And I'm about 3 weeks away. And
nice.
And I would say this, that it's really rare for me to do a podcast while I'm writing a book because I go into a rock, man. I don't compartmentalize. I isolate. I drop the ball on everything else in my life whenever I write a book. I'm terrible. I have so many unpaid bills right now for real estate. I have people squawking. I ignore it all. So understand, I pulled out of my rock. I came out of my cave to talk to you guys.
Hey, wow, that's an honor.
Awesome.
That said, I've been writing since 2:00 last night.
Oh man.
So after that's done, and I have to finish that before I can even think, I have a website coming up called The Wealthy Bookheads. And it's gonna be The Wealthy Bookheads. To me, this is my vision, at least, that everybody always asks me what books I should read. And I'm an author, right? And I always say, well, I'm a reader, and I always tell people about books nonstop. So how about if I highlight the best people? I've already talked to these authors that are nationally famous, worldwide famous. They always say yes to me. I always say, well, how about if I interview you? I'd like to pick your brain on this because I have a question. They say yes. So the Wealthy Bookheads, to me, could be a resource where we do podcasts, maybe like what you're doing. I would definitely do book reviews. I would definitely do those kind of things where it's a resource where you can come together like a library of the best books. I see that in my future. So that's what I would like to see happen.
Awesome. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great.
I think so. And I don't usually use that word fun often. It sounds like fun to me, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like balance for once to me. It sounds like those things. So
good.
I have 110 rental properties too. So when I say balance, that's in the mix here,
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Awesome.
Well, John, we are humbled that you said yes to come on our podcast. I can't wait.
I'll say yes every time you ask. You're my people. I'll say yes in front of you and to you guys in front of anybody famous. You're who I am. So I love it.
Well, we can't wait for your next book to come out. We'll be on the top of the list to buy it and read it and then talk about that one too. Man, this has been good. I really appreciate it.
From a military mindset, you guys will love it.
Awesome.
You will love it.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Well, guys and gals, if you haven't read The Wealthy Gardner, it is a requirement. It is a must. Go read it and share this episode. Tell somebody about this. Like it. Give John 5 stars. David, maybe 1 star. And most important, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day, friends.
See ya.
See ya.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, guys.